closet, all you atheists and agnostics and heathens and infidels. I'm Laurie Gaylor, and welcome to Freethought Radio.
And I'm Dan Barker, your out-of-the-closet, friendly neighborhood atheist. Oh, en español, so ateo amable. This is the weekend of November 13th and 14th, 2010.
Freethought Radio is the weekly production of the Freedom From Religion Foundation. We're the nation's largest association of atheists and agnostics, freethinkers, and we work for separation of church and state, and that's probably where we fill a really unique niche. We're not just sitting around talking about what's an atheist versus an agnostic. We're also working very hard to keep religion out of government.
We can talk about that someday if you want.
Yes, but we like to be practical. And we have two guests today. We are showcasing the variety of free thought here in the Midwest. We'll be speaking in just a few minutes with William Van Druten, who is coordinator of the Lake Superior Freethinkers, one of FFRF's newest chapters in Duluth, Minnesota.
And we'll be talking about free thought, atheism in Mexico. And I'll be going this week to Mexico City for the first ever annual National Mexican Conference.
So we'll be talking with one of the coordinators of that on the second half of Freethought Radio. How do you say his name, Dan?
Gerardo Quijada.
And then we'll also be, in a few minutes, playing FFRF's famous Moment of Bedlam. And that's what we do at our National Convention's non-prayer breakfast, which we just held in Madison, Wisconsin. So it's kind of fun. Stay tuned for that. Now, in terms of just a quick news update, you may have seen that FFRF was mentioned in Laurie Goodstein's write-up about atheism coming out of the closet, atheism advertising in the New York Times last week. And we were glad to see there was a little plug for our Out of the Closet campaign, and Butterfly McQueen got mentioned, and Barbara Wright, who's a famous restaurateur here in Madison, Wisconsin, so that was kind of fun.
And she called our signs very inviting.
Yes.
Which was very nice, very friendly signs that we have up around the country.
And so then, Dan, before we get to our first guest, last week you were on the road. Where have you come from?
Last week I was in Idaho and Utah. I spoke on 4 different campuses for 4 different free thought student clubs with the Secular Student Alliance. One in Pocatello, a brand new club in Pocatello, Idaho, with a very lively bunch of students. Another one in Twin Falls, at College of Southern Idaho. And that was fun because their advisor, the professor who organizes and helps the students organize, is also a music professor. And he and I did some jazz, and we played John Lennon's Imagine on a nice...
we should have got that queued up for the show.
Yeah, he plays saxophone. We could play some of it. We might talk to him someday. He's got a really good story.
And then the third
Brent Jensen's
campus.
his name. Then I went to Boise, Idaho. My first time to Boise. Another very lively, intelligent group of students who were excited to be fighting back on campus with all these religious groups. Then I drove from Boise down to the student area at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City.
So that's really promising that free thought is so prominent in a place like Idaho and Utah, and now Duluth. And we have on the phone with us William Van Druten, who's a longtime FFRF member. He's a retired psychiatrist. He was born and grew up in San Francisco. He attended Stanford University and then Stanford Medical School. He is married, and all 4 children are freethinkers. So thanks for heading one of FFRF's newest chapters and joining us on Freethought Radio, Bill.
Hello, yes. And thank you for having me. I'd like to correct, I'm not the current leader. I founded the Lake Superior Freethinkers, and at the time I called myself the coagulator. But now Bill Guzzi and Maxine Caserta are co-leaders.
So what, did they kick you out? Was there some...
Well, no, I decided it was my time to go on after 7 years. I think it's a good thing for organizations, and it was... I didn't want to wait for certain hints and then finally the boot, but anyway.
Well, it's a sign of strength that an organization can outlast its founder as the acting, director.
I think
good for you.
Yes.
Well, and I know these people, and I stayed in one of Bill's cabins there on the lake.
Oh, yes,
they're just
you did.
great, wonderful people. But you're kind of the legend. You're kind of the
Oh,
original
thank you.
troublemaker, I guess, that everybody admires.
Yes, I like that.
Well, before we talk about what Lake Superior Freethinkers has done and is doing, I think it would be interesting if you would share with listeners how you sort of said you've become a freethinker because of your training from the Cub Scouts. So how could that kindle your rejection of religion?
Yes. Well, actually, there's one thing before Cub Scouts that was interesting. A little girl who lived across the street and was in our playgroup group, Eileen Farley. She came home from somewhere she went to Sunday mornings and told the rest of us that we were all going to hell, which was not a very nice place. And not only that, but our parents were going there too, which was pretty surprising because my parents really didn't say anything about religion, yes, plus or no, and it was a non-entity, and I had never given it much thought. So this was, I must have been about 7 or 8, I'm thinking.
Were you scared? Were you scared at what she said?
No, I was puzzled more than anything because, gee whiz, I mean, she didn't make it very friendly. And
yeah, it seems like there's some people who can't wait to share the good news that you're going to be damned forever.
Yeah, and so I did ask my parents, and they said, oh, well, Bill, that's what some people think. But they never explained it much or told me it was baloney or anything. And then the odd thing was that Eileen maybe played with us once more, and then even though she lived across the street, I never saw her again. The families didn't move. We never saw the mother and father. So I never knew what happened to Eileen Farley, and I hope maybe she's out there listening to you. And if Eileen Farley from Idora Street, San Francisco, please contact me.
Maybe she raptured or something. Maybe she.
Oh, golly, possibly.
So how did the Cub Scouts figure into your free-thinking evolution?
In those days, 9 to 12 was Cub Scouts, and they would package us up in the short pants, blue suit, little thing, yellow neckerchief, very nice, and take us off to church maybe once a month, and then to a different church once a month, and then to a different. And we never went to any Jewish churches or Islam places. Of course, they hadn't been invented yet. But anyway, I did a foolish thing. I started listening to the sermons and to the hymns and all the stuff that they were talking about, and it just didn't make any sense. And I discovered that the one contradicted the other, and I figured one of them was lying, or one of the 2 or 3 were lying. And later, of course, I found out they were all lying.
Well, that's your problem, Bill. You're not supposed to think about it. You're just supposed to go and...
Yes, where were you then?
You're supposed to be mumbling the words and smiling, but not...
Wouldn't have been any help, would you?
So when did you consider that did you ever formally, as a teenager, call yourself an agnostic or atheist? Did you realize what you were?
No, we didn't know those words.
You just knew you didn't believe.
It didn't make any sense to me, and I pretty much dismissed it. That's about it.
So, well, we're heading for a break. Now, Bill, you came to the FFRF's 33rd annual convention here in Madison, Wisconsin a couple weekends ago, didn't you?
Yeah, sure.
And you had a good time?
Oh, fine.
And were you there at the non-prayer breakfast?
Sure.
Well, we are going to relive it. We have queued up the moment of bedlam. We want to share it with other listeners because it is kind of fun.
And maybe you can hear yourself in this background noise.
Yeah, and then Dan kind of explains what is the moment of bedlam. So why don't we listen to that?
Welcome to the non-prayer breakfast of the 33rd annual convention of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. We are going to consecrate this morning's meal. I hope you haven't started eating yet. We're going to consecrate the meal as we usually do, not with a moment of silence, not with an opening prayer. How many times have you gone to these meetings and suddenly somebody stands up and gives a prayer? And what do? You just look around, right? Well, today is your chance to fight back. This is a non-prayer breakfast, and instead of a moment of silence, we will have our traditional moment of bedlam. Think of a way to make some noise, to consecrate your food. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, 0.
So that's it. That's all we do. And then we let people eat in peace. We don't preach at them. We don't talk at them while they're eating their breakfast. They get to socialize. That's Moment of Bedlam is my mother's little joke.